This is indeed the time of year for delight. The season for weddings and graduations and other celebratory events. For me, a New Englander, it's almost the perfect weather season, although it's been a little tricky this month. I'm delighted by the sights and sounds and smell of summer, dogwoods, lilacs, frogs in the wetlands, extended evening time to walk our dogs, go get ice cream, watch our children play sports. We're anticipating the end of the school year, vacation or time away, or at least a slowing down of the busyness that drives our society. June is the month for the celebration of Pride for our LGBTQIA+ community, a colorful rainbow of a month of parades and dancing in the streets, over and against growing hate. That says we are here and we will not be silenced by fear. June 19th marks Juneteenth, honoring the day in 1865 when the formerly enslaved peoples in Galveston, Texas were the last to hear the news of the Emancipation Proclamation, which President Lincoln had signed January 1st, 1863. The slaveholders in Texas had kept the news to themselves for 2.5 years. Juneteenth finally became a national holiday in 2021 with the signing of the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act 156 years later. Both Pride and Juneteenth celebrate delight in the fullness of our humanity. During Pride, the LGBTQIA+ community invites us all to be authentically who we each are, to take delight in the continuum and complexity of gender beyond the binary, to delight in falling in love, in making a life and a family and a community with those whom we choose, with whom our souls know we belong. Juneteenth invites us to remember that liberation and justice walk us towards joy. Yes, they require hard work and struggle over and against systemic forces of hate and violence that never truly back down. But there are moments we can hold, moments when we can celebrate, when we can delight in love and in freedom and in liberation. I think of Adrienne Marie Brown's words about her parents' interracial marriage of the 1970s, that they trusted that the impossible was not only possible, but the best way forward. That is such a joyful, delightful, loving way to live. And there are moments when justice prevails, when love wins, when the impossible is suddenly possible, like when the first African-American president was elected, or when the Supreme Court voted to affirm equal marriage. Yes, I know the backlash has been fierce and strong, as it inevitably will be. But if we can keep remembering the delight, the joy of those moments, and lift them up, we remind ourselves and everyone that justice and equity are joyful, as well as healing. We counteract the white supremacy culture's myth that the work of justice and equity are all about shame and blame and taking joy and delight away rather than expanding them. Last week, we had the delight of blessing and dedicating 3 young lives, Noelle, Noah, and Cody. And I've been thinking a lot about Michelle Boissonnaud, one of the mothers of Cody and Noah, and her chalice lighting about becoming a parent. How initially she was reluctant because she was so concerned about bringing new life into a world already suffering under the weight of human conflict and consumption, how she felt guilty even. But then once her twins were a living, breathing reality in her life, she felt nothing but hope and love. And I would add delight. Blessing those 3 babies, I remembered when I was pregnant with Sam, my first child, and someone at my seminary said to me that to have a child is an act of prophetic hope. Trust that God or the spirit of life, or however you name your source of being, is not yet done with loving the world. And those words have proven to be prophetic. As parents, we cannot protect our children from so much that is hard. We cannot protect them from the realities of life or death or grief or suffering or failure. We cannot protect them from hurt, whether that hurt comes from the world, from themselves, or even from us sometimes. We can only love them in the fullness of who they are and who they are becoming, which is a source of both heartbreak and delight, sometimes all at once, because they are so often bound up together. I love the book of Psalms. It's one of the most honest books in the Bible, a collection of prayers and hymns that cover all the emotions and experiences of being human while abiding in a community of faith. It recognizes and expresses how we move from delight to despair, from grief to joy, from praise to lament, and back to praise. There are 150 psalms, 1/3 of which are laments, cries of suffering and confusion and loss, prayers of despair and doubt, of anger and rage, of asking forgiveness to be given or to be received. But the last third of the Psalms, for the most part, are praise psalms, hallelujah in Hebrew. Songs of joy and delight that celebrate all life on earth, celebrate God, the spirit of life, the source of being, the mystery at the heart of creation. Let everything that breathes praise the Holy One with song and dance and timbrel and harp, loud cymbals and crashing timpani, loud, joyous, unadulterated delight. To be human, the Psalms remind us, is to live knowing that we and everyone we love are mortal, that grief and loss, despair and suffering are part of the human condition, and so are joy and delight and creativity and passion and love. And we can't always know when we will turn the corner from mourning to dancing, from lament to praise. Ruth Whalen Crockett introduced me to Ross Gay and his Book of Delights, a collection of short essays, or essayettes as he called them, that he wrote every day about delight. Like the Book of Psalms, it is filled with moments of both lament and praise for being human and for the creation, beautiful in their diversity and possibility and endangered by fear and consumption. I then listened to him interviewed by my favorite interviewer, Krista Tippett, on Being in March of 2019. Tippett described it as a time of difficulty, not yet aware of what lay ahead in the year to come, a pandemic, the murder of George Floyd, the January 6th insurrection, just to name a few of the things that were on the horizon. During the interview, Tippett and Gay discussed the development of Gay's delight muscle, how the more he paid attention to what delighted him, the more he became aware of being surrounded daily by delight, people and things that brought him joy. Gay and Tippett contrasted the delight muscle with the despair muscle that so often drives our headlines in our culture. As Gay said in the interview, If the news was as invested in talking about how this person was great to that person as it was talking about how that person was terrible to that person, it would be a radically different experience. It would be, oh, okay, we live amongst people. People do many things. And I also think that that's part of our bodies that's wired. And this is the thing that I noticed that I would experience when I would experience something delightful. Oh, that's wonderful. So often I'd be like, I want to tell you. It is this thing that actually makes me reach out towards someone, and that feels bodily. I don't know if a scientist has found this out yet, but when something good happens, do we gather around a thing? It's a feeling that I have, a deep feeling that I have, and I feel like it's something that I witness, that people kind of want to share the stuff they love. As well as being a writer, Ross Gay is a professor of English at Indiana University, an avid gardener. He is also the child of an interracial marriage, a black man living in America with all the racist baggage that gets projected onto him. These truths, with their consequences, are woven into his essays on delight. For like the ancient psalmist, he recognizes that sorrow and delight, lament and praise are deeply intertwined in our humanity. He describes a moment in line at the supermarket when he realizes that he and everyone there one day will die. And he is filled with such love and tenderness by this realization that he vows to invest more in the delight of his time on this planet with these people. People kind of want to share the stuff they love. As Gay and Tippett delve further into his work on delight, as well as his life as a black man in America, they talk about justice and how too often it is portrayed as joyless, a joyless struggle, hard work without room for rest or delight. And Gay shares how attending to delight, to tenderness, opened him up to the power of mercy. As he writes in an essay after an encounter with a police officer over a broken license plate light, what if we honestly assessed what we have come to believe about ourselves and each other, and how these beliefs shape our lives? And what if we did it with generosity and forgiveness? What if we did it with mercy? The corrupt imagination might become visible. Inequalities might become visible. Violence might become visible. Terror might become visible. And the things we've been doing to each other, despite the fact that we do not want to do such things to each other, might become visible. If we don't, we will all remain phantoms. And as it turns out, it's hard for phantoms to care for one another, let alone love one another. Delight, joy, beauty. These are not luxuries for those who have the money and the leisure, nor are they the stuff of the consumer's version of the happiness we are told we can possess by buying things. They are necessary to making us fully human to one another, to take us beyond loss and sorrow, fear and hate, and open our imaginations to compassion, to hope, necessary to our belonging to one another, to this life, and to this earth, to the source of our being, necessary to trust that the impossible is not only possible, but the best way forward. We need to embrace delight as well as sorrow, praise as well as lament.